Hey there, everyone, and a very, very happy Thursday to you today. I am so very excited to be with you this evening. My name is Sara Newman, and I'm just delighted to be part of this Altenew YouTube Live tonight. Thank you so much for joining in, and a thank you to Aurum. I'm waving to you, who will be behind the Altenew badge with us tonight. So it is fantastic to see people popping in, and we will get started in just a second. So I see that Aurum's just sent me a message, and I think we may have a little bit of a double header this evening. So I'm going to be watching for some info from Aurum, but in the meantime, I'm going to keep on pressing on. I see folks jumping in and saying hello, so thank you so much for joining in. Tonight I have a couple of stamp sets that I want to share with you, and also a die set. To coordinate, we're going to be doing some really simple cards featuring some really elegant backgrounds, as well as some focal images. Hi, Darifa's joining in. Hi, Darifa, it's nice to see you. It's nice to see some familiar faces, and also hopefully some new folks in here too. For those who are not familiar, generally what we do for a live, either on Altenew YouTube channel or Facebook channel, is that we will showcase some products, specific products, stamps and dies, and then get into the demonstration. While we are live, you're invited to share the live while we're live. And if you post down below that you've shared and let us know how you have shared, then you can be in for a $15 gift certificate to the Altenew store. So Aurum will be in charge of that part, and she will also be posting in the links to the products that I'll be showing you tonight. So you might have gotten a glimpse of the first stamp set that I want to share with you, and this is the delicate tiles. So I'm going to kind of hold this up here so that you can see. And the delicate tiles is a layering stamp set. Now this is one that I think is just fantastic, not only for creating beautiful backgrounds, but also for creating some accent pieces. You can do focals, you can do backgrounds, you can do all over, you can do where you're cutting elements apart. It stands alone is what I'm trying to say. And then it also can be used in conjunction with any of your floral stamp sets too. So we'll take a look at how those can combine. But as you can see with the layering, you've got, for example, 4 elements here that when you stamp them in different colors, one on top of the other, you will create a really beautiful motif. You've got a black box around each one of these so that you can tell what goes with what. So here's one, here's another, and then here's a third. Now, when I flip this over and you can see the layering guide, you'll see that it makes more sense in terms of this plus this plus this will equal this. A really beautiful motif. So we've got all of the layering possibilities on here. You also have some sentiments as well. Altenew has that beautiful brush stroke font that they use. So you have a lot of really encouraging sentiments on here. You have time to smile, you have you got this, everything will be fine, and you've also got some elements that can work together. So for example, the smile on here, and then there's another little sentiment down at the bottom. Happiness looks gorgeous on you. So you can mix and match some of these. There's even worry less, which maybe I think that's the card that I need, one with worry less on it. On the inside of your package, you've also got this trifold. And what I love about these is that they will show you project ideas. So for example, you can create a beautiful tiled background. This makes me think of in the Netherlands, you know, they have those beautiful Delft blue tile backgrounds on the walls in some of those old buildings, and this is what it makes me think of. So you could do a complete background if you wanted. You could also do just elements of it too. So they always give you the project ideas and then kind of life size. So if you wanted to use these to do your placement, you can absolutely do that. and they'll share with you some of the ideas for various color combinations for the inks. And then of course you've got your layering guide on the back there. So that's the delicate tiles, which I have really fallen in love with. They can be used as they are by themselves, but I thought it would be fun to bring in a floral collection as well, so that you've got another option for your card making. So this is a petite set. This is one of the smaller ones. And this one is going to have 5 flowers. They are not layering flowers. They're just stamp and go. Great for coloring in if you like to use your artist markers, which is what we're going to use tonight. You can also use, of course, colored pencils or any other medium like watercolors would be pretty too, or embossing. So you've got the flowers, you've got some leaves that will go with any of the flowers, and then more sentiments on here. So one that says New Year, same dreams, fresh starts, new you, new feels, new changes, or new chances, sorry, new beginnings. I thought this one would be really great for graduations and some new starts that people are going to be making after they graduate. And the flowers have a coordinating die set, which is great because it just gives you so many more options. You can definitely just stamp these onto your background piece and call it good, but it works beautifully when you can die cut the flowers, and then you're able to just do some more with layering and building up elements. It also just makes it quicker and easier to get those flowers cut out rather than cutting around the outside edges. So those are the 3 main things that we're going to be playing with today. I will be showing some inks. I'm going to be using the Obsidian Black Pigment ink, which is I think you guys know this is one of my all-time favorites. And then some of our little dye inks. So any of the dye inks that you have on hand will work for this technique. Nothing really color specific today, so we're just pulling from what we like to use. Personal preference, which means you're going to see a lot of blue from me. So hope that you're on board with that too. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tilt down the camera. Before I do though, I just want to say another big welcome to all the folks who have joined us while we've been going just through the products that we're looking at today. I know that I didn't catch everybody's name, so thanks for joining and thank you. Welcome, and hopefully we will have a good inspiring time today. So I'm going to tilt down the camera, so bear with me. And I'm going to also tell you, I have 2 new things on my work surface. I don't know if you have been with me before, and you know that normally I have a craft mat, which I'm always working on because I usually do a lot of messy stuff. I have a new craft mat. This is the one from Altenew, and I was so excited, not only because it's really pretty, it's got this beautiful motif on it, but also because it's just beautiful and will work beautifully for any of my mixed media techniques with inking and so on, but also because it is a non-slip surface, which means that when I put this down, it's not kind of scooting around and sliding around on my work surface, which doesn't seem like a big deal until you realize all of my other craft mats are like they'll curl around the edges or they slide. I have them taped down onto my desk and my table, and I don't have to do that with this. So I was really excited, and I've got it on my Altenew cutting mat as well. So I've got a whole new setup. I'm really, really excited. So this is a winner for me, definitely, that craft mat. Unfortunately, we're not going to get too messy tonight, but I'm back again next week, so maybe we'll have a chance to do that. Okay, so this is the first project that we're going to take a look at, and you can see where I've used the tiles going across this border here. So this is a super simple technique to do, and I thought we'll just start here and you can see how easy this is. So I've got my strip of white cardstock, and for this one I'm using it's the Nina Classic Crest. You definitely, when you're doing some detail stamping, I really find that it makes a difference the kind of cardstock that you're working with. So that's my go-to. Now for this one, I'm going to do the 3 layer motif here. So this one, and this one, I'm going to stamp all together. And I've already pulled out my ink colors that I want to use. So I'm going to be using that beautiful black. I will also be using the Dewdrop for my second layer. And my third layer is going to be the Sweet Leaf. So I've got all of those on hand. Now you can use your Misty for this. In this case, I'm going to get by with a little 2" by 3" block. That's going to be my acrylic block that I'll be using. It's just really the perfect size and comes in handy. So I've got my first motif down on here, and I'm going to just ink this up first of all with my black. Now, knowing that I want to create a border, I may as well go ahead and do all 3 of the first layer all together, just since I've got my stamp inked. So I know that I want to have 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. I'm going to start right in the center. And you can see how pretty and delicate that is. Okay, so while we do this, I'm going to go ahead and do the other 2 as well. Okay, so here's the second one, and you can see how they can all be aligned so that you can easily create those all over backgrounds that we saw in the packaging in the trifold. You can have this going for as long as you wanted. So there we go. Immediately, I've got a really pretty background. Pretty quickly and easily too. Okay, I'm going to clean that off and grab my the second one in the series. So I'll pull this one off here and pop that down. Now this one I'm going to be using Dewdrop. And I'm using the little cubes. Of course, these also come in the larger ovals, which might be nice as well. And I'm just going to position this down. Now I like to use the center of the tiles as my orientation. But look how sweet that is. I like that pale blue and the black together. I think that just makes a really nice combination. And again, you could stop here. You could have this be your border if you wanted to, but I'll go ahead and just do the other 2 as well. Okay, and I'm leaning forward, hoping that I can aim this well. Okay, so that's with my Dewdrop on here. Now the next layer that I want to do is going to be in Sweet Leaf. So I'll grab the final layer again. So I've done this in black, this in Dewdrop, this one I'm ready to do in Sweet Leaf. And make sure that I've got that on straight. And again, I'm going to start in the center because I do want to offer this up to you as an option. Here you can see that I've got these 2 with the blue and the black, and then this one with that Sweet Leaf green on there as well. So you can also play with where you're adding your extra colors. If you wanted to have some variety within a border, that would be really cool as well. And I understand that we've got maybe some not technical issues, but a bit of a double header on our lives tonight. I think Lilith is on at the same time I am. So hi Lilith, I'm waving to you from across the internet. Okay, here we go. So you may be seeing comments about that filtering in as well. Not sure what's going on there, but I'm going to keep crafting until somebody tells me to stop. So here we go. We've got our simple border. Really sweet colors playing well together, and I think this is just a really fun way to add something really special onto a card. And I think you know, if you're considering different color combinations, you can really play with different ways to use your inks. So with this one here, I've used the black. I've also used the sweet pea, but I've swapped out the dewdrop for coral berry. I think it was coral berry. It might have been coral bliss. I think it's coral berry. Hi, Christine. Nice to see you joining. Bonjour. So I wanted to be able to show you the two very different possibilities. Now, if you stop to think of all of the inks that you've got in your stash, you're probably starting to think, oh yeah, this would be a great way to get some really different looks. The other thing I like this for is that sometimes I love using flowers from all of my cards, but sometimes I need something that's maybe a little more linear, I guess I would say. Great for masculine cards as well. And also can go for pretty much any occasion. Now I've added the "You Got This" down here at the bottom. The other thing I've added on here, I got a box from Altenew and it had all kinds of cool stuff in it. It also had these sequins in here. Besides my beautiful craft mat, it had these sequins, and I have to show these to you because they come in a little bottle, which for sure I am going to do some upcycling with when I'm done with the sequins. But they come in lots of different sizes. This is the satin gold collection. So you can see in here you've got little tiny ones and you've got some larger ones as well. And I've added those right into the center of the stamped tiles. So I've got small ones here, I've got a large one there, and then I've got some kind of scattered up on here. So I really like having the variety of sizes in that sweet little bottle there. So this is the first card project, and I think again it's just a nice way to create a border, one that I think can definitely come in handy for your card making. So that's if you're stamping all of your elements onto one piece. Now, the other thing that you can do is take advantage of the square shape and use your die cut squares, or you can cut your squares if you want to. This one is a little bit smaller than 2 inches. It's about 1 7/8 of an inch of a square. Again, you can cut these. There's no magic to the size. You just, of course, want to have it be a larger than your square images. So for this one, I'm going to do the middle section here. So these 4 going along here. And again, I'm going to be using my black. I'm also going to keep my dewdrop close to hand. And I'm going to swap out my sweet leaf and do something more tone on tone. So I've got my dewdrop. I'm going to go for Aqualicious and Teal Cave. So I've got these 3, sort of a tone on tone effect. And then the high contrast with that black. So let's see, I'm going to start with my first portion of my design. And I think if I read correctly, these were modeled after like Middle Eastern tiles. And if you've ever been to southern Spain or Morocco, North Africa, or indeed the Middle East, I think this would probably look quite familiar. It did make me think of Morocco, travels that I've done there. So it's just a really beautiful classic design. But I think also they can tend to look a bit like folk art. I lived in Poland for a while and was really enchanted by the folk art designs there. And I think depending on the colors, you could also have that effect too. So really versatile look. Okay, so I've stamped my first layer with the black. And then I'm going to grab the second one. And the second one I'm going to do in Dewdrop. And ink this up. And again, I like to orient from the very center. I find that that just helps me get the spacing right. So here we've got our black and our light blue. So I just saw your last comment that I will maybe make you change your mind. And I'm not sure what I might be responsible for changing your mind at, but hopefully good things. Hopefully I'm not a bad influence on you, Sue. Okay, now with our third layer, this one I'm going to do in our Aqualicious. And the Aqualicious, with this one, you can keep in mind that you can position the stamps the way they show you on the layering guide. You can also change them around. So if you wanted to have things going in, going at a diagonal, you can definitely do that as well. So keep that in mind too, because you can swap the direction of any of your layers. You can mix and match the layers between the motifs as well. So let's see, I'm going to pop this down like so. And there we go. That's the third layer. Again, you can stop here. You can stop at any one of these different parts of the process. Okay, and then our last one here. And the last one will be Teal Cave. And then I'll add that like so. So now we have a really pretty tile. Again, kind of a tone-on-tone effect. I like having the black to highlight. It can go as a square. You can tilt it as a diamond. I think that there are just lots and lots of possibilities with this. So what I've done with this one on my card, I've already gotten a head start on my card. I've done 4 of them and then pieced them together onto a piece of cream cardstock. Now, when you do this, I suggest, so I've got all 4 of my squares, play with the positioning and use a glue stick to adhere these. I just find that it's so much easier if you can put them down and you still have that ability to kind of nudge them one way or the other. Otherwise, it can be really tricky with double-sided tape to line things up perfectly and get the right spacing all the way around the outside edge and stuff. So that would be my tip. I always grab a glue stick for things like that because you can still kind of nudge your pieces around. So I've got 4 elements on here, and I wanted to add my sentiment right in the center. So let's take a look at the sentiments from our stamp set. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of really nice encouraging sentiments on here. Oh, you can't see them because they're upside down. So you've got, as I mentioned, you've got the smile, you've got my favorite, worry less, everything will be fine. Lots of really nice reassuring sentiments. And the one that I chose for this is focus on the positive. And this one I used with the black. It's a really nice crisp black and it does work beautifully for sentiments. But instead of having this on the square, I'm going to have it on the diagonal. Okay, and ink this up. And pop it down. I love the fonts that Altenew chooses, and I love the combinations of fonts. So you've got a really nice, big, scripty focus, and then on the positive is another really beautiful one on here. So I think this just looks so nice together and such a nice sentiment too. Okay, so on this one, I've added some foam tape on the back of this sheet, this piece that I've already got prepared for us. And I could just simply pop this down in the center, which I quite like. I like having it be at an angle. You've got lots of nice lines on there. But I thought that I could use something else with this. And I tried to work the sequins into it and it didn't quite go. But the other thing that I got in my happy mail from Altenew is some gold embroidery thread. I love gold embroidery thread for card making. This is their enchanted gold. Um, it's a beautiful thread that you can obviously use for some of your stitching and paper crafting techniques, but it really, really works beautifully just as an accent behind your elements. So what I did is I took a loop of it. I'm going to move this aside so you can see, and wound it around so that I ended up with just a couple of loops. I've got 3 on each side. Secured it in the middle with a little bit of tape just to hold everything together, because it can go lots of different ways. And I'm just going to pop this down here. Looks like you guys are liking these stamps. I have to say, when I first saw them, I thought, I'm not sure that this would be my first choice of all the Altenew, in the Altenew world. Because I do tend to go for the florals and the botanicals, but I just find that this one, the more I'm playing with it, the more I'm finding that it is super versatile and really will come in handy for a lot of different occasions. Okay, so I've got my foam tape on the back here. I've got my swirl of embroidery thread here, and I'm just going to pop this down right on top. And the foam tape is going to make it so that the focal image, the sentiment stands out, and also so that it won't sort of buckle over that. Not that there's a huge amount of bulk with that embroidery thread, but it won't buckle and bow over the top of that. To keep your ends of your embroidery thread from fraying like this, I suggest taking a little bit of white glue, just any kind of like crafting glue, and then adding that to the ends probably before you adhere it onto the front of your card, just so that you don't get glue everywhere. But this is another easy way to use this. So we're looking at using the tiles as a border, which I have to say I really like, and then also cutting it apart and kind of paper quilting with it. So 2 really, really easy ways to put this to use. Now, I mentioned that we've also got some really beautiful flower stamps. Knowing that we all love our flowers, let's take a look at those and how we can use those in combination with our tiles. So I'm going to put those 2 aside and bring in the New Beginnings stamp set. So did I show you this? I think I opened it up just to show you, or maybe I didn't. If I didn't, I need to do this. You've also got some project ideas here. This one I'm really liking because it's white embossing and then it's adding ink on top, so you're creating a really pretty resist effect. But as you can see, you can mix and match the flowers. You can use just the outlines. You can do a lot of coloring in on there. So lots of options with that. So I'm going to grab some sturdy white Nina cardstock, because I'm going to be doing some alcohol marker coloring, and I do want to make sure that I've got a nice sturdy cardstock on there. And I think I saw Nora had another tip for keeping the ends of your embroidery thread from fraying. So thank you for sharing that, Nora. That's one of those things. You don't want the whole thing to unravel, of course, after you've put it to such good use. Okay, so the flower I'm going to take is this one right here. Just pop that off. And the flowers are all about 2 inches in diameter, so they're a nice size for just single use or grouping your elements together. And again, I'm going to be using the obsidian for this. And the obsidian ink is really a good partner with your alcohol markers, because unlike a dye ink, the markers won't cause this to smear at all. So I've stamped that flower. Look how pretty that is. I just love this. Now you could use this as black and white, die cut that, and you have a really nice card as it is. We're going to do some coloring. I'm going to grab one of the leaves on here though, because I think the leaves are also super versatile and really nice to use. So you've got a 3-leaf cluster and then a single leaf here. I'm going to take the 3-leaf and pop this down. And simply stamp like that. I love the detail. I love the shading on here. They're just absolutely beautiful. And this being a smaller stamp set, you've still got 5 flower designs on there and some sentiments. And I just think that this is a really easy set to use for lots of different occasions. I'm going to pop this back on here. Now I'm going to color in using my artist markers. Now the important thing about using your inks is that you want to make sure that you have let your ink dry, because the pigment ink does take a little bit longer. So I've got one that I've stamped just before we started our session tonight, just to make sure that everything is dry so that nothing is smearing around. So the 2 colors that I'm going to be using today, I've got the R318, which is ruby red, and R302, which is frosty pink. I'm going to start with the frosty pink and then add some detail with the ruby red. Now, if you've worked with the Altenew artist markers before, you know that they are an alcohol marker. They have 2 tips, so you can see on here, this is the fine tip, and then you have a broad tip over on the other side. So I always keep in mind the fine tip is the one with the gray band on there. I'm going to use the broad tip though, and this is the frosty pink, which is the lighter of the 2 colors. And I'm just kind of scribbling in like a base coat. If you do any painting, you just sort of take away the white of that background and get some color in here. I'm kind of coming at it from an angle, not really worried about the detail. And actually, even with the detail of that stamp, I think just a really quick and dirty coloring process on there looks really nice. So that's the frosty pink. Then I'm going to come back with my ruby red. I think at one point we got a new label maker in our house, and somebody went a little bit label happy on here, which is good because then I can just glance down and see what color I've got here. I have a 9-year-old who loves to label, so maybe she can label some of my other elements in here too. Okay, I'm just taking the fine tip and reinforcing some of those lines that are on here. So I'm just basically retracing all of the stamped lines, the detail lines. And again, I'm not being too precise about this. I'm not one of those colorists who can do such beautiful work. I really just kind of get the job done when it comes to coloring, but I don't have all of the shading talents that I know lots of our Altenew designers have. So you're going to have to do the quick and dirty coloring techniques with me tonight. So I've added my ruby red on here, and then I'm going to come back again with the frosty pink, and I'm going to use this to blend. So again, coming at the piece at an angle, and I'm just sort of scuffling this coloring. And this is where I can make sure that I go all the way to the edges and get all of the flower area colored. And I think you can see, I'll hold this up so that you can see the difference between these petals that I've colored with that second round and this one here, which has only got the base coat of that frosty pink and then the ruby red accent. Okay, so here we go, and you can hold the pen at an angle to get better coverage and then hold it straight down to get right into those detail areas. And around here, and then just around that tip there too. Okay, so there we've got our colored flower. And I'm going to do the same process with the leaves. I'm using the G715 Forest Glades and G702 Frayed Leaf. I'll start with the frayed leaf because that's our lighter color. And again, just color that in. Getting some color down. And you could stop at any point in this process. Again, you could just leave it as a single color. Because the leaf and the flower have so much detail, you really don't have to worry about this being too faint. So now I'm going to come back in with my darker color. And again, just add some reinforcement on the lines on here. Just to add a little bit more shading. And then again, come back with our lighter color and scribble to blend. It still allows you to take advantage of the beautiful detail of the stamp design itself, but you don't have to spend too long on doing a lot of shading unless you want to. Okay, so I've got my flower and I've got my leaf, and I'm going to set my pens aside and then show you what it looks like when you die cut. So again, remember, you could, if you are happy to fussy cut around here, you can definitely do that. I do find that the dies that come along with this just tend to make life a whole lot easier. So I have a die for the flower, and then of course also the leaves too, which means that you can do multiples of these, and that just makes life a little bit easier. So I've done two. I've got a cluster with 2 flowers and 2 leaves. And I wanted to show it to you like this because generally what I do is I figure out how I want them overlapping, and then I will tape them all together. So the back looks pretty bad, but nobody's going to see the back except for you guys. So you can see I've just used some masking tape to kind of hold everything together, and then added my foam tape on there so that I'm ready to put this onto my card. But you'll notice that you've got a nice white border around the edges going here. It just makes the whole piece stand out a little bit more. So I've used my delicate tiles on the background of my card. And in this case, I have not used any color on here. So with this one, I'm using the, let's see, I think it is, now I'm going to have to double check. I think it is this one here. I have to double check that with myself. I think it's this one here. All of the layers though are in black. So I've stamped all of them in the same color, and I love the way it looks. I was thinking you could also do this with shades of gray, and that would be really pretty too, but I just think it's so striking on here. And then what I can do, I've got my Time to Smile on here, and what I can do is just pop down my flowers with the foam tape, of course, to give a little bit of a boost. You'll notice that I've got some of that gold embroidery thread wrapped around here. You're going to see a lot of that embroidery thread, I think, in my upcoming lives, because I just find it makes such a beautiful touch. So then if I add this on here, it just creates a really nice effect. Nora says you wouldn't have thought of using these together. You know, it was a happy accident, Nora. I love the way they look together. And, you know, one of the things when you're thinking of like design elements, think about like in home decor when they're selling wallpaper or sheets, you'll very often see florals combined with a geometric. So like flowers and stripes, or flowers and polka dots, or flowers and checks. The same applies for card making, or really for any you know, scrapbooking, flower arranging, anything like that. If you have strong lines and you soften them with a curve or a round motif, it really does create a nice sense of balance. So here we've got some strong geometrics and some soft floral motifs, and I think it just creates a really nice balance on there. So it is Time to Smile, and I really like having the black on here, tone on tone. Okay, I have one more card project that I want to share with you. So I've got parts and pieces for that. And we're going to do some alcohol markers on here too, but trust me, this could not be easier. And for this one, I think I will use, let's see, which one did I use? This one right up here. I'm not sure if this is a mum. Somebody who's better at flowers could probably identify all of these. I'm going to say it's a mum right now, but I'm stand corrected if anybody has the actual name of this flower. Maybe when I stamp it, you can really take a look. So again, using the obsidian, I'm going to pop this down here. I just love how crisp and detailed and beautiful that is. And it's such a quick and easy one to do. So that's the flower. Now we haven't looked at our little leaf yet. And that's this one right in here. And this is a great leaf. It goes with any of the flowers. And of course, if you're stamping multiples of it, you can really create some beautiful dimensional looks. So again, I'm going to do this one in the black and pop that right next to it. And also I am working on that Nina Classic cardstock. So I've got these two together. Now I'm going to grab my, let's see, this is the Forest Glades. I'm going to grab the Forest Glades, and my other marker is Ocean Waves. So this is B204 and G715. And again, take a look at your two tips. I'm going to be using the fine tip for this. And I'm not going to color in my flower at all. In fact, I'm only going to use my marker to accent the lines like we did with the other flower, except skipping that first round of the base coat. So I'm just using a pen to trace some of those lines. I'm not going to do any blending. I'm not going to do any additional coloring. This is it. And it is a great way to add color and dimension, definition, without too much effort. And I'm using the fine tip of the pen rather than the wide tip, just so that I can get into some of these areas here. Super duper simple. So that's the blue with the flower, the Ocean Waves, and I'm going to do the exact same process with the green. All I'm doing is just tracing those lines. I love using white space and taking advantage of the white space in card making because I think it really plays a nice role in creating a balanced composition. I think it has a nice contrast to it, and I just think it's quite clean and refreshing. So here I've got my flower and my leaf, and if I'm going to do two of them and create my leaf clusters, I can have something that looks like this. So the Ocean Waves is the pen that I use for this. Any of your pen colors will do the trick. So if you prefer working in those beautiful ruby reds, you could absolutely do that one too. So now for the base of my card, I'm going back to those delicate tiles. I'm going back to that square motif that we looked at with this layout. Very similar, except I've only done 3 of my tiles, and these I've done in black, of course, and also Ocean Waves and Parrot. So I've got a slightly different twist on my blue-green color combination. I think it just looks so fresh and summery. And then my 4th tile on here is one of the sentiments. So again, I've got the center area that I can do something with. And in this case, I've got my 2 mums, or whatever kind of flower they are. And again, on the back, I've got everything kind of jigsawed together. And I could use my foam tape. I don't have any to hand, So I'm going to just grab some double-sided tape here and add it onto the front of my card. So I'll pop this down. And add it maybe like so. And there again, you're allowing the tiles to be more of a supportive role, I guess you would say, in this card, so that you've got 3 of those just accenting and creating a really nice background for our flowers. But really the main focal element is your sentiment, because everything's kind of wrapped around that sentiment and the card message. So it creates a really nice visual. It's really leading your eyes straight into that card focal. And again, because I'm allowing that white space to come in to really show up, and I've also got a lot of white space here, and of course I'm working onto some really light backgrounds, that this does come together a little more easily than if I was using some more colors. Of course, you could have the flowers be darker or more colorful, but I really like that it allows there to be a little bit of breathing space around some of those elements there. So that is the 4th way that you can use the delicate tiles, and I love them in combination with that new beginnings. So we are just about coming to the end of our time together. What I'm going to do is move up the camera and show you again the stamps and the dies that we're working with, and then whiz through those card projects again. We'll take another look. In the meantime, don't forget to share while we are still live. There we go. Hello again. And you could be in for that $15 gift certificate to the Altenew store. So I'm going to whiz through the stamps that we played with today. And we'll start again with our delicate tiles. I kind of stuck everything back on here. It looks a little bit messy, but beautiful backgrounds, really nice sentiments. So many possibilities with this stamp set. I think this is one of those that's going to be in my quick to grab stash. You know, you have those stamps that you always grab more quickly than others because you use them so often. So I think that is going to be one of those sets for me. Then we've also got our New Beginnings stamp set. Again, with those 5 beautiful flowers, the leaves, and more sentiments. We were really spoiled for choice on the sentiments this week. I've got a lot in the stash, so there's a lot that we can work with. And then, of course, the dies that go along. And the dies really do make it a whole lot easier and faster, I think, to create layered effects. Okay, so I'm going to show you once again the card projects. We've got a simple border that you can make very easily with 3 of those motifs. And again, don't forget, you could do many, many more. You could do the whole background if you wanted to, but also don't forget that you can create a tiled effect if you're die cutting or cutting in, cutting apart squares as the motif there. We also have just going for black in all of our layers on the tiles, and then adding some simple coloring, very simple coloring, for our flowers and our leaves on here. And again, the cutting dies are going to make that a lot easier, and they do for this one as well. So we are able to create a really nice background, really simple flowers. I mean, that coloring technique could not be any easier. But it's a great way to mix and match your colors, I think, between your inks and your flower definitions on there. Okay, and then we've also got our sentiment down at the corner. So 4 different ways to use those beautiful tiles, some fun ways to also use the flowers and to combine them together. And if you were to combine the tiles with other flower sets, I'm sure that would be beautiful as well too. So lots of mixing and matching possibilities. I'm sure if you are thinking of your stash, you might be thinking, I can think of some that would go together beautifully. So, thank you so very much for joining me tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed. Thanks for taking the time. A big thank you to Orem for being here with me this evening and for getting all of those links out there too. I know I was whizzing through a lot of different goodies, and she was, as always, making sure that everybody knows where they can find them. I appreciate you being here with me this evening. So I'm going to say a very good evening to you. Good night. And I am back again. I believe it is this time next week. So next Thursday, I will be sure to have another new stamp set to see what it's going to be. So I'm sure we will be in for even more fun. So hopefully you can join me for that as well. Okay. Good night, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. And thanks again, Orem, for being here with me too. Take care.